Are you ready? 7:00, call the meeting to order. Let the roll call show that, Counselor Gerald is zooming in tonight. Not feeling well, I understand. Sorry to hear that. Everybody else is here. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, we have an agenda before us. Is there any changes anybody would like to make?
Mr. Mayor.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That carries. Brings us to the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull off the consent agenda? I'll take a motion.
Consent agenda.
Second, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Brings us to open forum. This is the part of the meeting where you may speak to items that are not on the agenda. We will not discuss legal matters, but anything else is fair game. So here's your chance.
Dan Haley, Princeton Township, 2863 50th Avenue. A couple things I wanted to ask. Why does the council, the mayor, or Ms. McPherson allow Jenny Gerald to act in the manner that she does? I have never met a person that acts more rude and disrespectful in meetings. It's absurd the way she acts, her body language, her gestures, the way she talks to fellow firefighters, fellow township supervisors, members in the crowd is completely unacceptable. She's the driving reason why you guys lost Blue Hill Township. The way she talks to Ken Murray from Wynett Township, you're gonna lose Wynett. You guys are losing revenue by her actions. You need to put an end to it. There's no place on the planet you can cost $100,000 a year of revenue loss and still have a position. Last meeting, she made a completely false statement and said that I said that the fire department should not run medical calls anymore. I had never once said that. I have said that they need to get their medical calls under control. There's far too many that the fire department is doing absolutely nothing on. It's absurd. Last year, there were 110 calls in Princeton Township. 50 of them were medical calls where your fire department was either canceled en route, canceled on scene, no patient contact, or merely loaded up or assisted north load. That's too many calls. It's got to get under control, and you got to get Jenny under control.
All right, anybody else? Okay. That brings us to old business, fire building.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, again, we said we'd bring an update. I believe we're getting closer to resolving the issue of the overbilling, both on the operating side and as on the truck fund from Wynett Township. I'd like to thank Mr. Murray for sending over the canceled check that was able to give us some clues as to what happened with the account coding. And once we figured that out, we were able to find all of the historical receipts. So we have those accounted for now. Again, Mr. Murray, thank you for your assistance. Appreciate that. Ms. Gerald also was able to provide some historical information, which is in the memo in your packet tonight. I've provided copies to Mr. Murray and also Assistant Chief Bakari and also Mr. Melgren, who's a resident of Wynett and has been providing some assistance in this particular issue. So we've resolved some of the next steps that were identified in March of the March 28th memo. And I have put some comparison tables in the memo that's in your packet this evening. I'm concluding at this point that there are some overages that warrant some form of refund. My understanding, however, is that Mr. Murray would like Mr. Melvin and I to meet. We haven't had a chance to do that yet, so I'm not asking the council to take any action. I have not prepared a recommendation as to where the funds are coming from at this time, but right now I'm just providing you some additional information. So I'm hoping by the April 25th meeting, I'll have a firm recommendation as to where we need to take this and how we can resolve this to at the final, I guess, with finality. So.
Okay. Any questions from council on this for city administrator?
No, thank you.
All right, so no comments from council, so Ken.
Yes, hi, I'm Ken Murray, Wyandotte Township, and Michelle and I did have a conversation today, and she emailed me some information. I think we've made some headway on it. I think we've brought the temperature down on it. I really appreciate that. And I would only like to request another meeting with Brian and her. He has some figures, but I think we've moved ahead where I wish we'd have done a long time ago, but I'm happy that it's getting there. So I just want to thank you for what you've done, and hopefully we'll get there. So thanks.
Thank you.
We'll untie the knot eventually. All right, anybody else on the fire building? All right, let's move on to new business then. We have a park plan presentation from WSP. Jeff Fielder?
Yeah, it's full.
Oh,
I don't know if I can open here, if I can put that in the computer.
I'll give you the mouse here, you can,
Okay.
if you want me to control it, it's your call.
Nope, I can take it.
There you go. And then you should do a click, do a left click, there you should just go.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm here tonight to talk about the park system plan that we've been working on for a while here. So have not met with you folks yet to walk you through the process. So kind of want to summarize where we are to date. Not asking you to adopt it tonight, but just want to review it, talk about what's in it, make sure that it kind of meets the expectations of what you folks want to see in there, and we'll go from there. If there's any revisions, if not, then maybe you can adopt it at the future board. And so again, park system plan, it's a strategic and comprehensive plan for the providing an overall vision for the park system. It's meant to guide future investments and improvements in the parks and park system and trail system. Plan goals, following goals were prepared as the guide for establishing the priorities. Strengthen the community connections, create spaces to gather, interact, and recreate. Improve safety and accessibility within the parks, and sustain fiscal and environmental responsibility. As part of the park system plan process, we look at demographic trends, your population, things that trends in the industry or the parks nationwide, kind of trends and things that affect Parks and Rec. So nationally, populations are aging and in need of accessible facilities. In general, accessibility is a trend that relates to people with disabilities, but also young generations and older generations as well. So another concern that recreation departments are seeing nationwide is barriers to access park programming. Many families have busy schedules and that kind of thing, and providing programming and amenities that fit with people's schedules are a big part of providing a successful park system. Demographic review. So again, not huge swings in projections as far as age, in your community. Pretty well actually balanced as far as young population through older age citizens. A lot of words on the slide, and a lot of graphs, but I believe the orange on the left side is rankings in your zip code region, and the blue is the city within the city. So this is kind of an analysis of what your population, how they spend, or their potential for spending index. So with the analysis and looking through Esri data, residents in Princeton do like to spend time outdoors, and it's a kind of fits with where you're located and the opportunities your community has. But that data shows that residents spend on outdoor recreation, maybe not necessarily related to parks, but it's a high priority for the population here. We looked at a gap analysis, looked at where you have parks within the city and where you don't have parks. So the circles around each of the parks within the city kind of outline a approximate 10-minute walk from each park. So you can see that there are some areas within the city that aren't served by parks right now within a 10-minute walk. But for the most part, where the majority of development is and houses are and population are within the 10-minute walk of park facilities. When you overlay that with additional recreation providing amenities, when you look at things that aren't owned by the city, so schools and churches and other places with open space that are public for recreation, you kind of overlay those circles as well. You really do have a broad coverage of the city, and telling us that maybe there are a few gaps where there's lower population, but for the most part, you are able to cover your residents with the park facilities that you have. The area on the lower left, obviously, that's where the airport is. Not as many residents in that area, so not as high a priority to make sure that that area is covered with parks. Comparison to national standards, you guys rank really, really well as far as the acreage and number of parks per number of residents. So as you can see on the right-hand column, for the most part, you exceed the average or the standard for fields, for park amenities, for acreage of parks. Like I said, the one area we might be deficient is with multi-purpose fields, like open soccer and football fields in your park system. But as far as courts, ice rinks, that kind of thing, you are providing a excellent level of service to your residents. Part of the process, we undertook some engagement activities. So we met with the public to kind of get their feedback on the park systems and the things that the park system and the things that you guys provide. So we attended 3 pop-up events: the Early Childhood Fair, the Duck Drop last summer at the Rum River Festival, and the County Fair. We also hosted a website with surveys. We had about 1,200 visits to the webpage, receiving 77 survey responses. So lengthy survey of different questions about your parks and park system. And we also did some stakeholder interviews with the school district, baseball association, Age Friendly, and the Princeton Chamber to get some input on the facilities in the parks. Summary of the engagement. For the most part, the community believes the biggest benefits of the parks are that they provide places for positive social interactions and provide age-friendly and accessible spaces. Currently, the most used park elements are trails, playgrounds, and picnic shelters. A number of the residents were unaware that a few of the parks in the city existed, including Riverview, Reedy, and Veterans Park. There's a desire to improve the parks through amenities such as trails, and natural or nature play, with a focus on elements for older kids. Engagement showed that routine maintenance of parks and keeping them clean is important to the community, and providing information about each park and online. Overall, people seem very satisfied with the current state of the parks, but believe that there are potential or opportunities for improvement. Other general comments, accessibility and connectivity improvements, interest in the dog park location that doesn't flood seasonally. So the current dog park location does have that issue. Elements for older users, like skate park, updating basketball courts or Ninja Warrior course. Desire for updated or newer playground equipment. Opportunities for nature play. There was a strong request for a community pool. I know that's come up in the past as well. But residents are also concerned over costs or implications for improvements. Other national recreation trends, trails, dog parks, pickleball, you can see the list up there. A lot of the national trends you guys are reacting to with the new pickleball courts. But again, this is kind of a list of recreation trends nationwide. Programming trends, outdoor fitness, just providing spaces for programming for seniors and teens, and that kind of thing. Barriers to participation, like I mentioned, lack of leisure time, maybe programs aren't offered or facilities aren't always open when people are now able to use them. There's concern about safety or cost of entry. Those are some barriers to participation in park and rec use. From there, we did go around and evaluate each of your parks, kind of rank each of the elements, things within the park, or all the parks, and overall, parks are ranking adequate, meaning that facilities are in good shape. Some of the facilities are older, but Bob's done a great job maintaining and keeping things in working order. Overall, they aren't brand new. That, if everything was brand new, that would get you in kind of the purple range. Overall, no major deficiencies, just adequate and well provided service at this point. So again, meets basic standards. It's fair quality. It may be older, but still serviceable. So again, none of your parks were not meeting basic standards or in poor quality. Some of the issues and throughout, you'll see probably on most of these ADA accessibility, just connection to elements and aging equipment are fairly common. So Civic Center Park, connections to the play features, there aren't paved trails to all the elements. Mark Park, there's some accessibility issues, lack of shade near the ball fields, aging of the equipment, especially like the volleyball court. So just some things that could take some minor improvements. Pioneer Park, accessibility as far as ADA, opportunities for seating, and maybe lack of signage. There are major issues there. Rainbow Park, same thing there, connection to the elements with ADA accessibility, conditions of things like the basketball court, and the age of equipment again. Reeby, there's some, for the most part, Reeby is accessible with the gravel trails, but there are some places where maybe it's settled and there are some accessibility issues or lack of connection to Riverside Park. There's a desire for a river crossing potentially. And the dog park does run seasonally. Riverside, ADA accessibility to the elements. You can see there's a wood chip trail to the playground, not necessarily wheelchair accessible. And again, difficult connection to get across to Ruby Park. Riverview, it's park space, but there really isn't much park there, so lack of amenities and again, lack of awareness of that park. And then Veterans Park, accessibility issues, connections to the elements, and the age of the amenities there. Trail connections are a high priority. So with the plan for the Great Northern Trail corridor to come through Princeton, looking for trail connections and connections through the city to kind of create that, and connections between parks as well. So getting from park to park within the trail system. You can see in this graphic, the dashed orange would be proposed trails. The dashed blue would be proposed bike lanes. The solid lines are existing trails. So solid orange is existing trails, and solid blue is sidewalk. The highlighted gray corridor kind of running north to south or south to north through the city would be the Great Northern Trail. And there's kind of two options for that to come through the city. The gray highlighted is probably the preferred option. To the west, kind of the dotted or dashed line west of town would be kind of the alternate or less preferred option for the Great Northern Trail to go through the city. Recommendations, we do go through and list a number of things, adding accessible trails connections to existing park elements. Replacement of the volleyball net, safety netting around the ball field areas. These are all things that are things that would help improve the park system. Obviously, you folks would be able to highlight what the highest priorities are, for each of these improvements. Civic Center, potential for upgraded playground equipment. Again, the accessible trails and connection to the park elements is a big one. Adding seating and shade as well. Veterans Park, again, connecting the elements, upgrading some of the benches or picnic tables, but really being able to access those items that are kind of out in the lawn by themselves. Maybe expand or reconfigure the dog park to include an area for smaller dogs or get it out of the flood area. Add bike racks, again, accessible trail connections, eventually pave the parking lot, and look at the potential for a bridge connection to Riverside. Rainbow, again, same comment over, just look at the accessible connections to the park elements, update the basketball courts, and then maybe update some of the playground facilities as well. Pioneer, make sure that the trails are accessible, add some maps and wayfinding signage, and benches or seating. This is probably a good opportunity for some nature play features to kind of go with the exercise nodes that are throughout that park. Riverside, again, accessible connections, adding parking, maybe updating play features. Again, looking at the potential connection to Reedy Park. And then Riverview, there's really nothing there, so adding some trails or creating space within the park. But maybe it's potential for a picnic area or seating area, and maybe this is an opportunity for some nature play as well. Trails, again, connection, kind of completing the connection or to the Great Northern Trail as that in the region, as well as, adding either dedicated trails or dedicated bike lanes on some of your city streets. So park improvement priorities, again, improve the quality, safety and accessibility, expand the trails and the connections, and then improve playground and picnic shelters over time. Potential added recreation, nature play, again, the trail expansion, potential for maybe a skate park or a ninja warrior course for us as well. So moving forward, we did put some initial costs together based on the recommendations. Again, this is a long-term plan, 10 years plus. This isn't, intended to be a, one swoop improvement plan. This is suggestions for ways to make your park system work better for your residents and be beneficial for everyone. So adding
Yeah. Just continue without her for now?
Mhm.
So just continue without her?
Okay.
There we go.
So number of improvements, estimated cost, kind of a range of costs for the improvements for each park is in the plan. Again, to do everything is, $7-8 million worth of improvements. Which could be kind of prioritized and, decided on, over a long-term plan. Different funding opportunities, one of the things as you look at a cost like that is looking for alternative or potential funding opportunities. So there are some grant programs available for some improvements, don't apply for everything necessarily, but there's the state outdoor recreation grants, land and water conservation fund. Look at potential fees or other funds, fund generators, fees per use, partnerships with other organizations, park dedication fees, and then going out for donations or, different groups may be able to donate things to your parks as well.
It's also good just to have somebody look at it occasionally so we can know that we're going in the right direction, so. All right, anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Brings us to Wine and Spirits grant request for Relay for Life. Anybody here for that?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I thought Denise was gonna come, but I guess she's not here, but,
She had surgery on Monday.
oh, that would be why.
Yeah. I don't remember, didn't we fund this before the relief on?
Yeah. we've done this.
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know where the amount is on here.
It's $500. Yeah.
That seems like that's what it was before. The only thing that said the check should be made payable to American Society. I believe that's American Cancer Society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Anybody got any comments on this?
No, I think it's a
Been going on for a number of years.
very worthy farm.
The Legion usually, leads they have a kind of a walkthrough thing. We've always read it with the colors. Yeah. Certainly with the, even
Mhm. I would like to make a motion to approve their grant request for $500 for Relay for Life.
second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there additional discussion? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. All right, moving on. Review and approve hiring process for part-time fire chief.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have prepared for your consideration, a process for reviewing the applications for the part-time hiring chief or part-time fire chief position, excuse me. The position application deadline did close last Friday at 3 p.m. We have received 7 applications. Our staff is recommending that, assuming that all of the applicants meet the minimum criteria, that all 7 applicants be interviewed. There's a 4-step process essentially that we've developed. I had assistance from Assistant City Administrators Gerald and Frederick, as well as input from Assistant Chief Fakari and members of the Fire Executive Board. So the first step is the city administrator and the city attorney will review the applications just using a simple yes/no checklist to make sure that all of the minimum standards have been met by the applications. Step 2, we'll prepare interview questions and solicit the various process, not asking them to give up a day of work in order to participate. Step 3 is interviews by 2 panels. My suggestion or my presentation to the council tonight is panel A would be comprised of an outside fire chief, the Greenbush Township Fire Advisory Board member, and that was selected by the Fire Advisory Board itself. Princeton Fire and Rescue Department members, 1 with less than 10 years experience, 1 with more than 10 years experience, and a member from the leadership team. A community member, someone's from, for example, USDP, Glen Metalcraft Plastic Products, or any other local business, and myself. Panel A would be responsible for interviewing all applicants and narrowing down the applicant pool in order for panel B to complete the second set of interviews. Panel B, as presented to the council tonight, is comprised of Assistant City Administrators Gerald and Frederick, an outside fire chief, or one of the Princeton Fire and Rescue Department members, the mayor or a city councilor, and myself. So there would be 5 as opposed to 7 on panel B. Panel B would be responsible for making the final selection of the candidates that were selected by panel A. And then last but not least is a background check. So I'm asking the council tonight for you to consider the process as I've laid it out, provide any input on a Saturday interview schedule, tentatively, given some community scheduled activities, and giving everybody time to compile the members and questions and those types of things. We're looking at the first weekend, the first week in May is the earliest potential date for interviews for panel A. Looking to provide input on panel B and then approve the process with any of your desired changes. So this is merely a process for your consideration. The council can make changes as it sees fit before it approves it.
What do you all think?
My first question was answered, how did you arrive at Greenbush Township Supervisor? So you answered that already. Where it is here. On panel B, I think it should be the mayor. I think it should be the mayor.
I agree with that for panel B.
Is there any other changes, additions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, fellow counselors, I have a couple items I'd like to discuss. When I first looked at this, a couple things jumped out at me. First off, panel A is just a little too heavy on one side. What I worry about the way it's laid out is if we have any internal candidates, they would have an unfair advantage over any outside applicants as the panel A is proposed. And I worry that that could cause some legal issues. What I'd like to recommend is that panel A consist of an outside fire chief. I suggest we move the fire advisory board member to panel B. I suggest 2 fire department members, one with less than 10 years, one with more than 10 years. I would suggest we remove the 3rd from the leadership team, and if the board member or the fire department member with more than 10 years experience, they want one of that person to be the leadership team, then that would be appropriate there. Because it's a department head position, I think it would be really beneficial to have 2 community members. With upper management experience, whether it's Patty from USDP, Joe from Glen Metalcraft, someone from Plastic Products, Mr. Butcher from the PPU. I think that would be really beneficial. And then the city administrator, and then either the mayor or a council member for panel A. And then because it is a department head position, I think by limiting it to no more than the top 3 could leave some potential good candidates on the table. Because of the importance of this position, I would recommend that we pick the top 5. For the second interview process, you can pull a lot of really good extra information in a second interview that might get missed in the first. And I believe that, it's going to take a little longer that day, but it would totally be worth the time to do that. What I would recommend for panel B would be to add that fire advisory board member. And then either the mayor and then the city administrator, and then either one of the community members from panel A to come back, and or a counselor sit in on that. That way we'd have 2. Every other department head hiring committee that I've been on has had 2 council members sit in on it, the mayor and a council, or 2 council members. So I think that's pretty important to continue to do that for our department head positions. But anyways, I think that balances out the 2 panels a lot better. And would give us some really good experience on both panel A and panel B. So those would be my, my recommendations.
Um. I don't know, what does everybody think about having the, on panel A, I'm hearing that, having that many people of the Princeton Fire Department, 3 people on that. Is that a problem or not? I mean, we're trying to whittle the field down from 7 to 3. I don't necessarily think that going from 7 to 5 is all that.
No, it wouldn't be going to 5. It would be, adding either the mayor or a council member and 1 other community member was what I
No,
suggested.
What I'm saying is one of your recommendations is to, get the pool down to 5 members instead of 3 members. Not the interview pool, but the actual candidates.
Oh, I see. Yep.
It's, you know, we're asking people to spend time to make a decision and, to exclude 2 people out of the whole process is maybe, I don't know, it's like, wait, what are they doing, you know? I would think that it's reasonable to go down to figure it out and cut it down to 3 people. I don't have a problem with that part. The amount of firefighters that are on that first panel. I don't know, I don't know what we're worried about on that, but what does everybody else think?
I pretty much like it the way it is.
Mr. Mayor, what I mentioned is it's pretty heavy on the internal piece of it. And any internal candidates we have would have an unfair advantage over outside if we have 3 fire members and a fire advisory board who all would know any internal candidates that we have. I mean, that would be 4 that would have an unfair advantage with 4 people out of 7. I don't think that's a good idea. I honestly don't. And I, like I said, this is a department head position. I would hate to limit ourselves to just 3 people. I don't know why anybody would, if they want the job, they'll come back for a second interview.
Well, my point wasn't that the candidates wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the people that are on the panels, not actually deciding anything. So, I mean, there's, you know, out of 7, there's probably 2 that will just, it'll be obvious that they're not the person, you know? So that's not really a job to ask somebody to spend an entire day to say, you know. I don't have a problem with going down to 3. I guess that's what I'm saying. Anybody else have an opinion on the number of Princeton firefighters and local people? I mean, Greenbush Township Fire Advisory Board member, they're not part of the fire department. Yeah, they know who some of the people are, but
Mhm.
so does everybody else that's in the community too, so.
I mean, I could understand going from 4 down to 3 if, you know, leadership team member, I think that's what she mentioned. So.
The other thing we need to remember, guys, is this is like really outside of the norm of what we've ever done for a department head. We've never had employees sit in on interview panels to pick their boss. I mean, when we hired Dylan at the liquor store, we didn't have his, employees sit on an interview panel. It's just super odd to do it. And I think we need to be careful with the amount of people. I mean, I would hope they would be happy to have any input at all, but I don't think we should stack it too heavy on one end.
I guess I would like to see in panel A, the mayor or the city councilor. in that part of it also. And I wouldn't have a problem with narrowing it down to the top 4 candidates, making to the second round, but, would be my changes I would like to see. I mean, obviously a lot of thoughts got into this and.
Mhm. You guys, I'm not just throwing this out there. I spent over 30 years of my career interviewing and hiring people and sat on, many hiring panels, and this just jumps out at me.
I still believe going down the 3 is probably the right way to go, and to Jeff's input here, adding that consular or the mayor on panel A would take away that, advantage. You have four people interviewing Dart in the fire department. Or 5.
There'd be 8 on that panel rather than 7. So we're not removing anybody, just adding one.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if we move the fire advisory board member to panel B and remove the fire department, one of their members, the leadership team, because they could qualify for the 10 years of experience or more, we could add the mayor and then another upper management community member. And that was my point. We would still be at 7, but it would be more equally balanced.
All right, so I'm hearing 3 things that we're talking about here. So you're talking about adding a mayor or city councilor to panel A. We've got the number of candidates that we want to go through to get to the next interview, and the number of Princeton firefighters that are included in this panel. So let's take that one at a time. So we want to make a motion regarding adding somebody to the panel, from the council, to panel A.
The mayor of council, right?
Yes.
Make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion on that part? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed? And, I like the way this is, so I'm gonna oppose that. But that passes 4-1. So there will be a council person or a mayor will be added to panel A. The next item of discussion is the number of candidates that will progress from the first interview to the second interview.
Actually,
Um,
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I had other recommendations on the panel A. Now we're at an odd or an even number if we keep it with that motion that we just made. Now we're at an even number. So my recommendation was to move the fire advisory board member to panel B and remove one of the PFRD leadership and add one more upper management community member.
Yeah, well, I was getting to that. So,
Oh, well,
they're just not in order. All right, so we'll get to all of those. Number of candidates that will progress to the second interview. We've got 3 different opinions. There's the original one was advancing 3. Counselor Reynolds says 4. Counselor Gerald says 5. What do we want to do?
Could we compromise at 4?
Do what we want, somebody make a motion.
I would rather stick with 3.
I like 3.
I'll make that a motion.
We have a motion to advance 3
Second.
and a second. Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
So we're gonna stick with 3, and that vote was 3-2. That brings us to the number of Princeton Fire Department, members that are on panel A. So currently, well, the original idea is to have, hold on, I just lost my screen here. We have a member with less than 10 years experience, member with more than 10 years experience, and a leadership team member. The first 2 are not leadership team members.
But one of them could be.
But one of them could be. Well, this, what we have right now is those 3. So do we want to adjust that number?
Again, the reason why I'm, really concerned about this is because of the unfair advantage to outside applicants.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know.
I don't see that as an issue, but I think that the 10 years experience and the leadership team
Could be hand in hand.
probably kind of a redundant.
Yeah.
So maybe one of those could be eliminated.
Or combined.
Yeah, right, whatever. We bring it down to 2 members instead of 3, no matter how, whatever it works out to.
Then you'll have your 7 panels, yeah.
Unless we
Um,
move the fire advisory board, Vicky.
Oh, over to panel B.
Mm-hmm. Then we could just add another community member to even that out.
Well, that would be 8 again.
No.
7, yeah. We added a mayor council member. Oh, yeah, if we moved it to 8 now, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So what,
I'd like to make a motion to move the Green Bush Township Fire Advisory Board member to panel B.
Second.
there's a motion and a second for that. Is there additional discussion on that? I'm a little bit nervous about having panel A taking all of the people, or as many, taking 2 out of possibly this 7. Out of, the people that have working knowledge of how everything is working now. I don't know. So we're on Green Bush
That-
Township.
Yeah. I think it would be beneficial to have him over on panel B because he does also have some knowledge.
Well, the townships do have a significant financial stake in this, so.
And I think we definitely need to have a fire advisory board member, but taking, right now we have 4 people that are sort of attached to the fire department in this original plan.
Mhm.
If you do the fire advisory board member and you take a Princeton firefighter out of this mix, now you're down to 2 out of 7.
Mhm.
No.
And I get what you're saying, but I also get that we just came out of something that was really tough.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I don't necessarily want to, and we could do it this way and it might turn out perfect. But if it doesn't turn out perfect as far as the department goes, then I don't want to get back in animosity space again. So I would like to have those people in there. You want to add 2 people and keep those, if you're worried about that balance, then I would rather do that than to remove the fire department members.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm worried about.
So we understand if we moved the fire advisory board member to panel B, that'd be the Greenbush, president or member. If we did that, speaking for myself, I would not be in favor of moving anybody else off of panel A. I think that's kind of what you're addressing.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
And we're not eliminating the fire advisory board member, we're just moving them to the next position.
And that would be down to 7, but then the other panel would be.
Let's not worry about
Yeah, I know.
the actual number for now. Let's just figure out how we want input.
Because I totally concur what you just said, Mr. Mayor, but if you want to move it, but moving the fire advisory board member, I don't think is like linked there, because they're not in the fire department, member of the fire department.
Then, let's see here. I gotta look at my other, what's in panel B, forgot. Yeah, and
Jack,
I
they
don't-
might not be in the fire department, but they know the fire department members very well.
well, that's fine.
That's the first wrong, because we're not eliminating that input. We're just
Well, no,
moving-
that's why I said put them on panel B and then they can have input on the final candidate on who we decide to hire.
I have no issue with that, if we don't make any more adjustments on family. Run.
All right, so we're talking about moving the fire advisory board member to the final decision maker for the, well, I guess we're still get recommended to the council, but I guess I don't have a problem with that. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would make 6 there.
Mhm.
You actually would have, right now with, Counselor Reynolds' motion to add the counselor or mayor to the existing composition, you would have a panel of 8. If you move the fire advisory board member to panel B, you'll be back down to 7.
Oh, but I'm looking at panel B and now we have 6.
Yeah, no, that's what I
Correct.
said earlier.
I understand.
Now it's 6.
So.
Yeah, but I
that's-
had a recommendation for that too, so that would bring us back up to 7 when we get there.
All right, so right now, did we have a motion to move the
Yes.
fire advisory board?
Yes, yes.
A motion and a
Okay.
second.
Yes.
Motion and a second. Let's just move to the vote on that. All in favor of moving the fire advisory board to panel B for the final interview? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, I'm okay with that. That's fine. All right, so that's 5-0. That is on panel B. All right, we're at number of Princeton firefighters on the first interview team. And currently there's 3 with the various years of experience and leadership positions. Do we want to change that? I make a motion that we do not change that.
And I'll second that.
I agree.
Motion and a second. Is there additional discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-1. So we're set on panel A, I think,
With eight.
and we're staying with 3 candidates that advance. So now we are to panel B. And that was adding an additional community member to that? Is that what you're,
Well, we've added the fire advisory board member now. So we need, right now we have mayor. We could add city councilor. We could add another community member from panel A or a different one, which might be a good idea. So either mayor, city council member, or a community member. Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
are you planning to sit in on the interviews? Do you know
I'm
at this
sorry?
point? I'm just wondering if you know at this point if you're planning to sit in on the interviews.
I was planning on sitting in on the panel B interview,
Okay,
but I planned on the A interview. So let's figure out what panel B looks like first before we get to that part. So what would you like to add? Do you want to add a council member, or do you want to add somebody else?
or a community
about
member.
Or a community member. Somebody make a motion what they want.
I'd like to make a motion to add a community member.
Second.
Motion made to add a community member to panel B. Any discussion?
You know, we're gonna,
And we need to do that just because we want to have an odd
Number.
we, should we have the same person that's set on panel A, or should it be a different person, or should we decide that when we make a decision to do it or not?
I think if we have people that are willing, it'd be nice to have a different person on A and B, but I guess it depends on who we're.
If you have a totally new person, of course, will they have access to the first interviews?
No, they will not.
See, that, to me, that's kind of a disadvantage.
The questions for the second interview by panel B will be different in all intent, for all intents and purposes. And there might be 1 or 2 overlaps, but in general, they will be completely different questions.
Well, and if it is a different person, they've never talked to the whole field anyway, so I guess it wouldn't matter, I guess.
So so we have a motion to add a community member to panel B. Do you want it to be the same one? I'm asking whoever made the motion in a second, what they want their motion to be.
I'm different.
If it's available?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the preference would be a different community member, but a community member nonetheless, so we have a willing participant. That's good. If we don't, we're okay with the same one.
Yes.
Yeah, the panel A one.
All right, is that, everybody understand what that motion is?
I understand.
Yeah. I also like the idea that then we have 2 representatives from the fire department on panel B.
No, we don't have that yet.
Oh,
No, that's not.
No, we don't.
okay, yeah, Linda?
Well, we have the advisory board and then one
Correct.
member.
Well, or outside chief, or,
That's the last decision that you need to make about panel B,
okay.
and once you vote on this motion on the floor.
All right, let's do this motion. Everybody understand what the motion is? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so you have additional member on panel B, a community member on panel B. So the last question, I think that's the last question.
Yes.
Outside fire chief or one of the Princeton Fire Department members who participated on panel A.
Mr. Mayor and fellow councilors, I'd like to suggest we go with an outside fire chief, just because, especially with the situation we just went through, I think they would have a lot of good ideas and input, you know, on things, the people management part and the problem solving part and what all goes into managing a fire department. They're gonna be the best experienced person to sit in on that final decision.
I guess I would like to stay with one of the, Princeton Fire Department members on panel B.
I agree.
Who wants to make a motion?
I will.
Second?
So we have a motion to have one of the Princeton Fire Department members who participated on panel A to be also on panel B. And there's a motion and a second discussion, additional discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that answers that question. That's a 4-1 vote for a Princeton firefighter on panel B. Are we covered?
Yeah, we got 7 on each panel now, right?
Correct, so just to recap, we have a 4-step process, including 2 interview panels. Panel A will be comprised of an outside fire chief, 3 members of the Princeton Fire and Rescue Department, noted with the years of experience in the leadership team, a community member, the city administrator, and the councilor or mayor. Panel B will be the Greenbush Fire Advisory Board member, which was moved from panel A, the assistant city administrators, Gerald and Frederick. 1 member of the Princeton Fire and Rescue Department who participated in panel A. The mayor, myself, and a community member. Hopefully 1 different from panel A, but if not, we will accept that same person. And we are still going to recommend, panel A will still recommend the top 3 candidates to panel B. And if that is clear.
That seems to be what I
Yes.
got from that conversation.
1 final motion to basically approve that process would be appreciated by staff.
Motion to approve the process with the changes. For it.
Everybody understand what the changes were? Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Also carries 4-1. All right. That was hard. Now we get to choose somebody. That sounds even harder. All right. We have a bi-weekly report from our city administrator.
Pretty short and sweet. We are still working on the airport stuff. We have a vacancy. If anybody knows anyone that pilot that wants to participate, please send them our way. We're in a holding pattern with Baldwin Township. April 19th is the drop dead date for all final submittals to be submitted to the administrative law judge. We have been intermittently working with various developers, but we don't have any projects moving forward at this time. We meet weekly with the fire department staff. I think that's going fairly well. I appreciate all the time everybody's devoting to that. Infrastructure, we had a good meeting with MnDOT and Sherburne County. Life might get a little congested next year. Both MnDOT and Sherburne County have 2025 construction projects planned for 169 and Rum River Drive. So getting around might be a little tough. And then, the, legislature's still chugging along. There weren't any changes from the last report. And we're working with the school district on, the school resource officer bill for 2023. And I didn't have any unusual meetings to note, so pretty short and sweet.
All right. Questions for Michelle? All right, let's move on to the bill list. Any questions on that?
I move to approve the April 11, 2024 check register containing checks 88095 to 88153 and ACH payment 411202401 in the amount of $352,543.72 and the payroll electronic payments as noted on the pay period 7 transmittal register in the amount of $80,443.86 and pay period 7 check register in the amount of $134,853.16.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. That brings us to committee reports.
I just have, mentions here, for the public utilities is in line for awards here lately. We had the Energy Star recognition a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was. We just recently were honored with 2 awards this week from the American Public Power Association. 2023 Safety Award of Excellence, Gold, and Excellence and Reliability Award in 2023. So our hats off to the staff and crew at the public utilities. They do an excellent job.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
No, it's really in the month.
All right, next is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?